Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Divi Nation. Divi Nation is a podcast and YouTube show by Elegant Themes, a leader in the premium WordPress theme and plugin market. Speaking of which, you'll want to stay tuned for the full episode to hear a short announcement at the end about our upcoming Divi Builder plugin. The goal of Divi Nation is really simple. We want to provide you with the knowledge, insights, and supportive community you need to be successful with WordPress and Divi. I'm your host, Nathan B. Weller, and it's my job to facilitate all that by inviting Divi and WordPress authorities onto the show and getting them to share their stories, as well as the lessons they've learned along the way. In this episode, our primary topic is how to build your sales funnel, and I was joined by guest host Andrew Palmer. Andrew is a prominent member of the Divi community. He's 1/3 of the team over at Elegant Marketplace. He has his own Divi-centric web design and SEO shop called Somebody's Hero. He runs an online marketing blog called My Very Own Blog, and he has an interesting e-commerce side project called Downton Abbey at Home, where he sells beautifully elegant homeware inspired by the award-winning drama. In short, he wears a lot of hats, and they all seem to fit pretty well. Andrew and I had an enlightening chat about attracting prospects, building sales funnels, and closing sales. Here it is. Andrew, welcome to Divi Nation.
Hi, Nathan. Thanks for having me on board.
It's good to have you on the show at last. We've sort of been, sort of like Gino last week, we've been circling each other, waiting for the right time to have you on the show.
Well, that's good. I'm glad I'm here now.
By the way, is that a saying where you're from, wearing lots of hats, or is that just an American thing?
No, it's wearing lots of hats. Yeah, that's why we like a little program called 17 Hats. Not doing advertising for them, but I use that for my invoicing, and it's a little CRM thing. So yeah,
okay.
It's a thing. We wear a lot of hats in this business.
I just had to make sure because SJ, he's another previous guest. He's from the same neck of the woods as you, and today on Facebook he said he was sick and he didn't like the fact that he had to crack the hell on with his day, and I had absolutely no idea what he was talking about.
But he's just cracking on with his day, so he's just getting on with it. So he's basically, there's a little bit of a cold going around at the moment. I've got a cold as well. And you just have to crack on. You just have to get on. And SJ is particularly busy at the moment because he's launched that big course of his. So yeah, I can understand why he's busy. He actually comes or lives in a town literally 5 miles from where I was born and bred.
Oh, so, wow. Small world.
Very small. Wouldn't like to paint it, but it's very small.
So, speaking of British things, I understand it was, we just missed tea time, did we not? Or I did anyway. You did.
Yeah, I didn't. I ate, and my daughter, who's 12, cooked us a lovely chicken pie. So that was great. So she's cooking twice a week now. Comes home she'd rather cook rather than doing the washing up, which is great. So she's got I used to be a chef, so she's got I hope she's got a little bit more talent than I had as a chef.
Oh, that's interesting. We'll have to hear some more about that in a bit.
Oh.
Are you ready to hit our first segment up of the day called This Week in WordPress?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, great. Let's get into it. So this week in WordPress, we've got 3 articles to discuss. I sent them ahead of time to Andrew so he could read them. Now let's talk about them. Article number 1, Not a Developer, The Art of Remote Hiring, Starting Your Internet Business, Part 3. This article was written by James Farmer and published on wpmudev.org. James, of course, is the founder of WPMU Dev, as well as EduBlogs, both of which have been wildly successful WordPress businesses. In this particular post, he shares the remote developer hiring process that he's honed over the course of 10 years. If you're familiar with his company's work, then you know that he's definitely doing something right. His post includes a 42-minute video, so there's probably a bit more content there than we can cover in this segment, but some of the broad stroke pointers he gives out go something like this. Find a community, whether that's a forum, Facebook group, website, etc., where the type of people you're looking for hang out, and then spend a lot of time there. Number 2, be really helpful, and in the future, when you ask for help, it'll be more likely to find you out. 3, put the word out. Post that in your community. Post in the community that you've joined. Write a blog post about it. Create a killer jobs page on your website, and send an email blast to your list asking if anyone already active in your community would like to get more involved. Andrew, I know this is an area that you've actually had a lot of experience in, hiring remote work or remote developers and a remote team.
Yeah.
So I got 2 questions for you based on this article. 1, what did you think of it, just in general? And 2, what does your experience hiring remotely look like?
Well, I thought the article, it was a long one, and I actually did watch the video, and I think it's wise if somebody's looking to hire someone from where, from miles away from where they are. The point of the article was, if you read in between the lines, it's kind of don't let people trust you before you get trustworthy. And vice versa, we don't trust anybody until they get trustworthy. So
Right.
the point that they were making about joining the groups, I've got the same philosophy: join Twitter, join a Twitter group, join a Facebook group, build up some trust, be genuine, be honest. So if you can't deal with a situation, try and push them on to somebody else. It's like going to a shop and saying, have you got this particular TV? Years ago, the kind of mentality was to say, no, we haven't. Now it's no, we haven't, but I know that X store down the road has got that. So, if you go down there, it's there. So you've got to build yourself up into a knowledge base of other people that are capable of doing that job.
Right. So even if you don't know, So even if you don't know what the job is or how to do it, you can say, I have someone in my network that can handle that, and let me connect you to. And then, so I think that's what you're saying is an example of being useful, even if ultimately what you're doing is looking for help.
Exactly right. So if I'm looking for help, I'm going to find people by helping other people, because they're going to give me a tip. And the actual example of this is I have 12 developers on the Indian continent. They've been with me for 9 years. Can you imagine? They've been with me for 9 years.
Wow.
I got them by using a UK developer and programmer who used to use them, and he got too busy to do my work. So he said, you know what? Just go to these guys. And now I'm with them, and they are my developers. Now I've got 3 UK-based developers, 4 graphic designers, and now, as of last week or 2 weeks ago, I added another UK developer to my list, because you need everybody you can.
Article number 2, how to use keywords throughout your marketing strategy. So this was a post written by Christy Hines, I believe, and published at moz.com. That's moz.com. In this article, Christy explains how keywords can play a bigger role in marketing than most people realize. By now, most people are already optimizing their blog posts and websites for SEO using keywords. However, there are a lot of other places that keywords can be useful too, such as social media profiles, social updates, high-quality guest posts with a big star next to high quality, directory listings, email subject lines, and probably a whole lot more. So, Andrew, I chose this article because I know you're actually a bit of an SEO specialist. So what are some of your thoughts after reading this?
I have always had the mantra of talking in keywords. It's a bit boring SEO unless you kind of just, if you really dive into SEO, it's really interesting, because a lot of people think it's about keywords and there's content marketing and content is king and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But actually the key to SEO is research. And there's a great thing that she puts in there about doing research on your keywords to give yourself some blogging ideas. And she uses the AdWords keywords key tool.
And there's others out there. Yeah.
No, listen, I've got the best tip ever.
Okay. Really. Yeah. Hit us with it.
So you put in your key phrase that you're interested in writing about or that you're interested in promoting, and then you scroll right down to the bottom, and Google gives you 8 to 10 people have searched for this as well, and they are variants around your key phrase. You copy and paste them into Excel, and you make a little table, and those are your subjects. That's your subject or your titles of your next blog post, and your keywords and your key phrases. It's the easiest way to make up a blogging diary, if you like.
I wanted to ask you specifically about Divi and SEO, because I know you work a lot with Divi and you specialize in SEO, so I'm sure that you have some sort of tips or optimization things that you do with Divi specifically that a lot of people might not realize are possible. Do you have any SEO optimizations that you that maybe most people won't think about that you could pass on?
Well, I don't use Yoast. I'm not a Yoast fan, and Yoast seems to be a massive plugin that people use. And you actually don't need to use a plugin, but actually the reason I use a plugin, I use All-in-One SEO. I use Yoast, but I prefer All-in-One SEO. I think it's simpler. There's no traffic light system. There's no confusion. Yoast has an issue currently recognizing images in Divi for some unknown reason, that they're there, and it has some issues with sitemaps as well. And I think they're getting over that as well. And I'm not dissing Yoast, it's just not my preference.
Sure.
So I use all-in-one SEO, and I make sure that I use the social side of all-in-one SEO, and I make sure that my social sections, because it's got loads of little things in there, that allow me to make sure that my Facebook posts appear with the right featured image, that my because you can put more meta descriptions in there for social as well. And I use it to build my sitemap as well. So it's just the same basic things that you would do on SEO. You make your page titles consistent and what you want people to search under at their H1 tags already. You'll use your hierarchical basis for text. So you've gone H1 in your title, H2 for your secondary headlines, and H3s if you want to. I just use H1s and H2s, but make sure that your content, one, is relevant to what you're talking about, two, has your key phrase that's in your page title, and also make sure that your URL is the same as your page title as well, because it's a friendly URL and you want that picked up as well. Don't worry about Divi and SEO, because at the end of the day, WordPress is your building block. You're using Divi to facilitate you building a beautiful website. Just make sure that you follow the SEO rules. And my best bit of advice, don't learn from people like me, don't learn from people like Moz. Go to the horse's mouth, search Matt Cutts, watch his videos, go to Google Webmasters and join up Google Webmasters.
Yes, for everybody who's not aware, Matt Cutts is the SEO guy at Google, and he's also who all these other SEO experts are taking all of their cues from. At least as far as what's coming down the line with Google and Google best practices. Okay, so article number 3, 8 ways to attract leads that will grow your WordPress business. This article was written by our very own Joe Filan on the elegantthemes.com blog. It functions as a good follow-up to another post he wrote for us recently called How to Create a Sales Funnel for Your WordPress Business to Land More Clients, something that obviously we'll be talking a lot about a bit later on. In essence, this post actually consists of 8 strategies for filling a sales funnel, and they are 1, promoting your content, 2, using pop-ups on your website, and Andrew, I know you're going to have something to say about that, 3, utilizing Twitter, 4, Facebook ads and groups, 5, LinkedIn, 6, public speaking, 7, networking, 8, joining a local or virtual mastermind group. Andrew, what do you think of this list?
The list is quite extensive. The list is good. LinkedIn. I'm going to hit it in reverse now. Or mastermind groups. I'm going to hit mastermind groups first.
Sure.
You have BNI in the States.
BNI.
It's like a breakfast club.
Oh,
like a breakfast meeting club, networking club. We have
possibly.
It over here.
I'm not sure.
It's a franchise. Well, it's a franchise anyway. So there's a lot of these breakfast clubs. So I would suggest going to one and then deciding that it's not the right thing for you, or deciding that it is the right thing for you. Some of the people, some of the things they get up and give a 1-minute presentation on your business and then give me a referral. So they're kind of referral groups.
Okay. I mean, I'm a big fan of meetups, and that's something that's really popular all over the place. And I think that's the same idea. It's on it's a group on a specific topic who are authoritative and or interested in learning more, getting together.
Exactly right. So, but that's what I would class as a mastermind group.
Gotcha.
You're getting people together. Some of them are playing catch up. Some of them are very advanced, and that's good, because then you get together in your group and you learn. And that's what the Facebook group is about,
which would be the networking as well. I mean, I think the networking is also physical networking and going to events and doing things like that.
Listen, there's nothing like really pressing the flesh, especially if you're a local business. Business isn't just about your website, even if you are a web developer. But if you're trying to sell something else, like I say, like pink widgets or a fridge or a plumbing business, you need to get out there and press the flesh. And I don't understand, or I don't get it, where plumbers, I don't know any plumbers as friends of mine. I don't think plumbers actually have any friends, because the reason
they're always working.
Well, the reason behind it is they're always working, but they also don't want your friend phoning you at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, I can't turn off my stopcock. But we know that LinkedIn does work. It's more of a recruitment. It's turned into a recruitment agency kind of platform. Yeah. Here's your job. Try and get some stuff done. So I'm going to ignore LinkedIn because it's not for me. I don't use it. I post on it occasionally. I get the odd lead, but they're not worth anything really. Where I do get a lot of work from and a lot of referrals from is Twitter.
Oh, okay.
I get involved in a Saturday morning group that starts from 8:30 in the morning and lasts until 9:30. And we're just telling people what we're up to, telling people what we're doing, why we're doing. And it could be social. I'm just out walking the dog, or I'm just going to get a bacon sandwich or something like that. But
and you do this on Twitter.
And you do this on Twitter, and it's like a Twitter feed that just goes on, and you hashtag it. And I know that there's hashtag Glasgow, there's hashtag Windsor, there's hashtag London, or whatever it is, and so everybody can follow that Twitter feed. That builds up momentum, that builds up connections, and I have now 5 clients from that Twitter feed over the last 6 months. So they're in interior design, they're in flooring, they're in publishing, all these kind of things. So that's a really good thing.
I think something people forget a lot is that at the end of the day, like what you're saying, you're engaging with people in your neighborhood, in your local area, in your city, and you're just building relationships. It doesn't necessarily have to be a direct call to action so much as it's like, hi, I'm Andrew. I exist near you. Like, let's learn about each other. Let's become friends. And then, 6 months down the line, they're like, oh, I should have a website for my business. There's this guy named Andrew who I talk to on Twitter all the time, and he has a website company. So I think there's a really basic, understanding that has to take place there, because when people start a business and they want to start filling up their funnel with leads and prospects, they want to do it right now. They don't maybe realize that there's a process involved that includes building relationships and building awareness and building authority. That's going to take some time. And then over time, that's going to turn into a consistent funnel.
Exactly. It's just like when you have a client that has a new website, for instance, you have a situation of you've delivered that website. It's 2 weeks down the line, and they're saying, hey, I've put my keywords into Google and it hasn't arrived. Well, of course it hasn't. It's not there, and I'm not on the front page yet. And you go,
right.
It's a facepalm moment. And every developer and every SEO guy and every marketer has faced that situation. You try and explain to them it doesn't actually work like that. It is the same in business. Yourself. You've done some business, and I've done some business, or you've looked for a job. And sometimes it takes a while to get a job. And sometimes it takes a while to build that relationship up.
It's like proposing on the first date, man. You gotta pump the brakes for a second. Build the relationship first, and then make the big commitment.
Yeah. Okay. Proposing on the first date. I like that, and I'm going to steal that. But it is so, and that's where you build. This is how you're building your funnel, because this is kind of what this conversation is about, and you're going to lead into that, I'm sure. But patience is the first thing that you need, and not to panic. Please keep calm and don't panic, because if you've thought about this brilliant idea and you have invested your time, effort, and a little bit of money into it, then you've got faith. So you've got to keep the faith in yourself to be able to deliver this product, this service, this whatever you're providing to people. And if you don't keep the faith and remain enthusiastic about it all the time and smiley and hi, this is what it's about, and this is not in everybody's face.
Yeah, and you don't have to be fake about it. You just have to know on a deeper level that this is what you're doing and you're confident in it. So even when you're like, maybe not feeling it, you can still project that persona, because that's a direct reflection of how you really feel about it, whether or not you're having like a bad day or, you're tired or whatever.
Exactly. I mean, we're not allowed, if we're self-employed, or we run a business and we've got some staff, we're actually not allowed to have a bad day, because
not in public anyway.
No, not in public, especially if you say have an office. I heard someone say it was somebody fairly famous saying it. If I walk into my office and I don't say good morning to the receptionist, my father could have died 2 hours ago, and I am not going to show that receptionist that I'm not cheerful, because I need her to do her job. I don't need her to worry about how I'm feeling. I need her to know that I'm okay, because the receptionist is the most important person in the building. We all know that. They're the first person that receives the call. They're the first person that a customer will speak, or a potential customer will speak to.
We've got a future show coming up about that in terms of, well, it's not about receptionists exactly, but it's the digital version of that, which is your support staff or a support-centric approach to running a business.
Yeah, well, I have a VA, so I know where you're going. So my VAs, they're very important to me.
So let's talk about the last two things real quick on the list, going backwards, using pop-ups and promoting your content. I know you have beefs with pop-ups.
Well, I don't have a beef with a pop-up. What I do have is a beef with the implementation of a pop-up.
Okay.
I actually quite like a pop-up, but not within 5 seconds of that website loading.
Okay.
Because you're blinding me to the content. So if I use pop-ups, which I do on a couple of my websites, I put a 45-second timer on it. And it works. I get loads of signups. It works better than my static pop-up or than my static sign-up form.
Sure.
So I've got nothing against pop-ups per se, but I've got something against pop-ups that don't give me a chance to read the content. Don't, kiss me first before you ask me to go to bed with you. Kiss me first. So I need you to show me what you're all about.
Yeah. What about promoting your content? I mean, it's pretty, general, obviously, but when it comes to filling a sales funnel up, what role does content play in getting it into the hands of the right people?
Content is very important, and I think I was listening to Phil Simon the other day about building authority. It's all about building authority. Okay, so if you write sensible content, I tend to write very short content. I'm 500 words or more because I kind of like to get to the point.
Yeah.
And I hope I do get to the point. It's proven. I've got a full order book. I can't actually accept any more clients at the moment, so something's working. I'm running a website at the moment that's getting 1.5 million page views a month. It's incredible. There's a lot of content on there.
So what do you do to get that content in the hands of the people who need it?
Actually, on that one,
in the hands of the people who are going to be ideal for filling up your sales.
For that particular website, its demographic is 18 to 25-year-old women, really. So what we're doing is we're Facebooking a lot. There's a lot of posting going on Facebook. There's some boosted posts which aren't necessarily around the product or the content.
I'd recommend Pinterest as well.
Pinterest
demographic
is very powerful for anything, really. Especially if you're a graphic designer, for instance, or a web developer. Why aren't you using Pinterest? You've missed a trick there.
Yeah.
And Instagram now, and you can advertise on Instagram, which is just very recent over the last, I think, month or so. You can now boost your posts on Instagram. If you are quite clever about your tweeting, about your Instagram posts, your Facebook posts, and applying to be a guest blogger, and all of a sudden, I've got loads of work coming in, or loads of inquiries coming in.
Yeah.
That's how you get the content out. Just push it out.
Well, that's it for This Week in WordPress. If you're interested in reading the articles we discussed, you've got two options. YouTube viewers can check the video description for links, and everyone else can find the show notes on our blog at elegantthemes.com. Just go to the community category in the right-hand sidebar, check out the post for Divi Nation, Episode 7. The next segment of the show is where we get to know our guest hosts in a bit more detail and pick their brain on this episode's main topic. Our guest today is Andrew Palmer, and in addition to sharing his story with us, he'll also be talking about how to build a sales funnel, something anyone selling products or services needs to know about. Andrew, we know that you're really active in the WordPress and Divi world right now as an entrepreneur, marketer, and more. But would you mind giving us some backstory, like where are you from and what'd you do earlier in your life?
Well, where I'm from a seaside town called Hayling Island, which is right on the south coast of the UK. But I left home and school at 16. I went to live in the big smoke, London, and I got a job in a restaurant as a waiter. Didn't like that. Went into the kitchen, found that I could cook, well, at least omelettes, and it was a Greek restaurant, funny enough. So I learned a little bit of Greek Cypriot. And then I decided after about a year to go to college, learn how to be a chef properly. Went around some hotels, stayed with them while I was at college, became a chef, and then did some various things. Decided not to do that. Then I was riding a motorbike around London as a motorcycle courier. Ended up being invited into be a controller in the courier business, ended up owning the business with a few other guys, ending up selling it. It's now a global business, which is great. So I was only about 20 at the time. And basically throughout my life, I've had different businesses. I mean, I've had a large printing business. We were responsible for really launching the NTL brand, the cable company, which is now Virgin Media in the UK.
Oh, wow.
So I think it's the largest cable company. But when I met them, there was only 3 of them. And we launched them, did all their marketing collateral for about 6 years. So that turned into like a £6 million a year contract, which was lovely.
Wow.
And then we just moved on and we did some stuff for travel bureaus and lots of printings. Had about 50 staff in the end, about 14 million turnover print business. So when I finished doing that, what happened with that, I saw the internet in the sort of 90s. I said, guys, we've got to get into the web. My business partners were at the time slightly older than me. At the time I was only 36 or 37. They were in their mid 50s, I suppose, and they were just not interested in getting into this newfangled thing called the internet, especially with 28k modems and things like that. So I went to college. I went back to college and learned HTML, and I've never looked back. I looked at that, and I started off with Dreamweaver 1, building websites for myself, and Netscape. You know, I don't think you wouldn't even know Netscape. You're young.
I am familiar with the earlier browsers, Netscape and Mosaic and all those.
Yeah, so I had to build websites around there. So I was there was no such thing as a media query then, really. It was mobile phones didn't really exist. They were in your car and they weighed. If you had a mobile phone, you had a very strong left arm because they were so heavy.
So were you doing at some point? Did you start doing commercial or just commercial web projects before WordPress, or did WordPress sort of start that off for you?
No, I did. I was building Flash. I went to college and learned Flash, how to program in Flash 1.0, and then carried that on. And then I just got into CDs, making CDs and doing the start programs to them, doing the intros to CDs as well, which were all Flash driven then. So
you really have been all over the place, huh?
Well, yeah, I know, but I've been in this kind of media world for now 30 years, 33 years actually. But so I've grown up with CDs, I've grown up with ISDN, analog modems, 28K, piling them together to get more bandwidth. It's just incredible stuff. Building websites, building our own servers, all that kind of stuff. But still in the advertising world. So I started, the first CMS I ever used was Joomla.
Okay.
And I thought this is going to save my life. And I've actually only been using WordPress thanks to a guy called Mark Copeman. It's a really good friend of mine. And he told me 5 years ago about WordPress and battered me and said, you've got to start using WordPress. And my life changed. I could produce websites very quickly. It's about a 18-month learning curve, to be honest. I just couldn't get my head around it because I was so used to Joomla. If you've ever used Joomla, it's just one of the easiest CMSs to use. But WordPress, now I know it. And to be honest, I don't do that many websites. I'm not that good a web developer or designer. I've got a dozen developers that I go, get on with that. I mean, I can answer a few CSS queries and a few security issues, and I run my own hosting and stuff. But my days of development are over. I'm really a sales person, and I am the guy that brings that funnel in, and then I just spread that out and I project manage that and take it to other people that know PHP, JavaScript, all these kind of things, Javas. It's just complex stuff to me now.
I mean, speaking of sales, I noticed something about all of your websites right now, which is that you don't do like open-ended services. All of your services are packaged like products in addition to the actual products that you have, meaning there's set things that come in each package. You can only buy the packages. You don't buy specialty stuff. Has that been can you tell me about that decision a little bit? What drove you to organize your services and products in that way?
There's a guy called Brian Cassell who is out there, who I had a few conversations with a few years ago, and he runs a thing called Restaurant Engine. It was a great idea to build websites on a multi-site kind of idea. So WordPress multi-site. So your restaurant company go in there, they can build their own website on a multi-site, and they just pay a monthly fee, $50 or something like that, and it works. But he started a course called Productize Your Services. And I didn't take the course. All I needed to do was know him and have a quick 10-minute chat with him and a 20-minute look at his videos. And I just decided to productize. So my web packages are my products.
Yeah.
My services are my products. I have a productized marketing services, marketing consultancy services. I have a productized web development service, and I have a productized web hosting business. So what that does is it gives you a base to work from. I'm not saying that you can only buy that, but it gives people an idea of what you're going to cost as well. You know,
Absolutely.
when you walk into a TV company or a TV shop and say, I want that 50-inch TV, you know how much it's going to cost you. They might try and add on a bit of monthly insurance or something, you know, but we do as well. Our monthly insurance is a maintenance package, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, to train someone in SEO for a day, it's £500 or whatever it is, £700, you know, because it's a whole day. I'm training people, I'm giving my knowledge to build a website. I've got 4 or 5 people involved in one website, you know, developers, they're doing stuff, graphic designers. There's a price. And one of the things that web developers, I think, especially startups, make a mistake is not pricing their time in a valuable way. You know, if you go to a lawyer, it's going to cost you, I don't know what it costs in the States, but here it costs about $200 an hour.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, so why? They're qualified, they've gone to university. A lot of web developers I know, most of the web developers I know have gone to university. They've learned their trade. They have experience. Why aren't web developers throwing their services out at $200 an hour? It's partly because they're afraid. They're afraid to tell people that it costs that much because we've got the Wixes of this world, the Spotifys of this world, etc. Our free culture is you know, can damage us. But with productized services that I've got, the reason I went for it is because, one, I wanted to be quicker to market, and 2, I wanted to make some money.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I work to make money.
Well, it's probably a good time for us to shift the conversation to talk specifically about sales funnels, with the goal being obviously to make money consistently. So for those who are unfamiliar with the term, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. A sales funnel is a multi-stage process designed to convert website visitors into paying customers. Would you agree with that definition, Andrew?
I would.
Yeah.
But any sales funnel is that. It's a multi-pronged attack to get somebody into a funnel. You don't want too many in there because the funnel can also be a bottleneck, because if you get too many inquiries, you can't deal with it. So you need to target your customer base very, very well, because it's all right having that funnel, but if you haven't targeted and all of a sudden you get loads of inquiries and you can't deal with those inquiries because some of them are stuff that you're just not interested in.
How do you target?
You niche. You absolutely niche. You know, there are 100,000 plumbers in this country. There are 40,000 printing companies in this country. In my country, I don't know how many there are in the UK, in the USA. There are 30,000 dentists. You know, niche. How many florists are there? How many, you see them on every street corner? How many independent coffee shops are there that need a website, that need some help with their Facebook, that need some help with their branding, that need a fascia done, or a banner done, or a set of business cards done? So you niche, and you choose your niche, and you learn your niche, and you get to know that niche, so that when you're talking to that niche, you're talking their language. And that's how I build my sales funnel. So I niche.
You learn their language, and then you talk to them using their language.
Exactly.
Use the identity markers of that tribe.
Yeah.
Pull them in.
Being a chef, perfect.
Sure.
Being in catering, having owned a couple of restaurants myself, one in Devon, one in Spain, I know what restaurateurs go through. It's a nightmare. You know, it's a 6 a.m. in the morning job until 3 a.m. the following morning. So I can facilitate their business by building them a proper website, by building them a proper Facebook page, and helping them engage with their customers, because I know what they want from their customers. So that's my niche. That's one of my speciality niches. But actually, one of the niches that I really like is landscape gardening.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of websites coming up for those types of businesses.
Yeah, and because one, they're really pretty. One, you can make them look really, really good.
Yeah, same for real estate. If you have nice homes that that your real estate
and I don't
agent
know a
sells.
landscape gardener that doesn't charge less than £1,000 a day in the UK. You know, so they can afford it. Melissa Love, who was on here a few weeks ago, her niche is photographers.
Yep.
She doesn't go anywhere. She doesn't build websites for anybody else. So niche marketing. So that's my best advice.
So you've got your niche and you're looking to get those people into a funnel. Now, one thing I want to do today is make sure that we try to demystify the idea of sales funnels. When you say sales funnels, I mean, it in and of itself is a metaphor. So
Sure.
I want to make sure that people aren't getting hung up on not being able to really picture or get a good solid idea of what a sales funnel actually is in practical terms. So could you maybe just pick one of your websites, one of your businesses, and describe for us how you've set up that particular sales funnel and how it works?
Okay, so on Somebody's Hero, I have a contact form, and it's fairly detailed, so people have to fill it in. I get an email. They get an auto response back saying, thanks very much for your inquiry. Here's another form that I want you to fill out if you're interested in a particular area. So if you send me a website inquiry, I'm going to ask you for more details. If they want me to give them a call, I will give them a call. But what I want them to do is fill in that form so I've got even more information. I then give them a call. I then get the work. We have 100% track record. So, and the reason we get the work is because we ask the right questions at the beginning. Now, to generate that sales form being filled in, my funnel is very, very simple. It's Facebook, where I've got a couple of Facebook business pages where I comment and I share. It's Twitter, where I share other people's tweets. So if it's a restaurant that I'm interested in dealing with, for 3 months, I will retweet every single thing that they've tweeted, at least three times a day.
Not aggressive at all. Not aggressive at all. I'm just kidding.
I know.
It works,
but,
though.
Of course it works, because then when I phone them up, they go, oh, yeah, you're the guy that's retweeting us. Well, thanks for that. Yeah, great. Yeah, I'm happy to talk to you. So I said, well, you don't need to talk to me. Just go to my website, fill in the form, tell me what you want. If they want to talk to me, I'll talk to them. I'll have a Skype conversation, or if I'm in London, I'll just pop in for a coffee, and I start that sales process.
Right.
If I don't succeed with them, and this is what a lot of people miss, if I don't succeed with them, they say, oh, thanks, Andy, you're a great guy, but we've got a web developer and we're using a London agency and we're paying through the nose and whatever it might be. I will always ask them for a referral. When have you ever had a meeting with somebody that's selling double glazing or financial services to you that at the end of the meeting or at the close of the sale has said to you, I wonder if you could refer me to someone. It'd be great, because I work on referrals. I'm sorry, I use the same techniques. I will always ask for a referral, especially if I didn't get work off them. I'm very pleased and very happy to say that I have 100% track record of getting work from somebody once I've sat in front of them. And it's not because I beat them up or anything. It's because we will always get something.
Always something, whether it's their business or somebody else's.
Exactly right. So that's how you start that funnel. Now, with advertising, say on Facebook, I'll do a couple of boosted posts and I will get that funnel going. Mm-hmm. If somebody signed up to my email newsletter, they will get a trail of emails. So they'll get one a week for the next 4 weeks, asking them what they want, what they need, giving them information, telling them about what we've done for somebody else. Look at that. Look at this. Look at what this person did.
Yeah.
It's not about us. It's about them.
This is very much like what Melissa Love and I talked about, where she said, closing a sale is like it's the same as having a conversation. You don't walk up to someone and say, "Hi, how you doing? You want to buy this?" You say, I mean, some people do, but they're the ones that we all run from. What you actually do is you go up and you say, "Hi, my name's Nathan. Nice to meet you." You have a bit of a talk. You get to know each other, and then you see them another time. And you have another little talk, and you get to know them, and then you walk away, and then you see them another time, and it's like down the road, you go, oh, hey, this is like the 8th time we've talked. I don't know if I've ever mentioned to you that I run a business, and I think it might be something that you're interested in. That pitch is going to get you the sale, and I think that's what you're talking about.
Well, let me tell you that 2 of the largest contracts I've got in the last 3 months, I've been talking to the guy for 15 years. That's a long sales
game.
pitch. But I tell you, it's been worth it. They are they're big projects. So, that's it's been worth it. But I've been talking to these people for 15 years.
Could we maybe try to break this up into stages? So the first stage would be, you're marketing and you're talking to people. That's your broadest stage. So that's maybe the top layer of the funnel. When someone signs up, then you've got some emails that go out to them that are not necessarily hard sells, but they are letting people know what it is you do, what you can do for them. How do you close after that?
I say, right, we've been talking for the last month. It's about time that we had a face-to-face or a phone call. I will be calling you in 48 hours. If you don't want me to call you, please unsubscribe from our list. It's quite bullish. It's quite aggressive, but I'm a salesperson because I don't want to deal with people that don't want to deal with me. And if I've been talking to them for 4 weeks and I know that they've opened their mail, because I know that, and I know that they've clicked through to some relevant links or whatever, they must be interested in some stage. Even if they're interested in 6 months' time, I need to get to talk to them.
Yeah.
You see?
Gotcha.
So I will tell them that I'm going to call them in 48 hours. And do you know what? I call them in 48 hours. If they haven't unsubscribed, they don't need to do anything. You don't need to do anything. If you don't want me to call you, hit the unsubscribe button, and I'll know that you don't want me to call you. So if they haven't hit the unsubscribe button, I will either get my VA.
Have you seen people actually
start
to unsubscribe? Have you seen people actually start to unsubscribe from your list as a result of these types of messages? Or is that just sort of like an irrational fear that someone who doesn't like to be direct might have? Because I can feel that. I tend to think I'm a bit more direct than the average person, but that's pretty direct to say, let's do business or get off my list.
Yeah, exactly. Good. Let's do business, or I don't want to waste your time, and you don't want your time wasted either. Or I don't want to waste my time either.
Sure.
And it does sound aggressive. And to be honest, it works. People are scared of asking for the sale or asking for the business. So I do want to deal with you, Nathan. But if you don't want to deal with me, there is no point in us continuing this conversation. So have a nice life, and I'll get on to the next guy that wants me to deal with them. And, whether that sounds arrogant or not, I can't help that. But I cannot afford to waste my time on people that don't want to do business with me if I'm doing business. If you want to be my friend, that's cool.
Yeah. You got to get real with the fact that your performance directly impacts your life. And you can't exactly coast through entrepreneurship and still expect to have a comfortable lifestyle. You're going to have to really focus on these conversations and close these deals once they get in there, especially if they're at the end of a long funnel. I mean,
Sure.
Other people might have different methods that suit their personality better, but in the end, you do have to have that kind of breaking point where you have that, are we doing this or not moment.
Sure. And also, my sales funnel or my sales pitch is only 4 weeks. It's not long. It's only a month. So what I've got is there are people that don't unsubscribe but reply and say, I get it, I'm not ready, don't unsubscribe me, keep on talking to me. So what I do with that is that I start them in another funnel. So I pause a campaign. I've got a different campaign that says, Nathan, you asked me not to contact you for a while. So a month later, I send you another reintroduction of the business and myself, and so it'd be great to get together. What are you doing over the next couple of weeks? If you're not doing anything, let's get together on the phone or whatever.
These are all these funnels and these synchronized funnels. They're managed through automated email campaigns. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah. Yeah, so you've got, I mean, there's many out there. There's Aweber, there's Infusionsoft, there's MailChimp. And MailChimp is great because it's free for the first 2,000, but you don't get your autoresponders, and you also don't get your journey. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to make a customer have a journey. So the first email is, hi, how are you? I'm this, and you're this, and we'd like to do some business because there's some synergy there.
Yeah.
Second email is, hi, this is what we do. Look at what a client of ours asked us to do, and we solve their problem. This is information about the new Google algorithms. How's it affecting your website? Or this is a great design of a photo website that we saw. What do you think? Because you're a photographer. Boom. Fourth email, say goodbye. If you don't want to, because on every email there
either
is a
say
contact
welcome to the
us.
business or say goodbye.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, welcome. But on every one there's a call to action that says, if you need us, contact us now. Even if you don't need us, still contact us now, because I'm sure there's something we can help you with either now or in the future. This is all very polite. It is all very polite. It's not aggressive.
Sure.
But yes, you have a different funnel. Now, for businesses like a theatre or a cinema or an opera house, for instance, people need a customer journey as well. So they need to be taken from point A to point Z, being very American about it. But throughout that journey, they're going to be offered free tickets, 2-for-1s, free Prosecco in the opera or whatever. And there's that journey. So eventually along that, say, 20 email cycle across the opera season, they're going to get tempted to go to the opera. So that's the kind of customer journey that I'm talking about as well. Now, when you're a solopreneur or whatever we're called, these small businesses that we are, we don't actually have that much to say. So a 4-week email cycle is about right.
Yeah. What are some common problem areas? I just mean you're building this funnel, and somewhere along the way, everything's going right until they hit point X, and that point, a lot of people make a mistake. What is that mistake, and how can people avoid it or fix it if they're doing it?
Well, the mistake is not following up an email that's come into you from your emails or a contact point. So I've emailed you. You're on the third email. You're thinking, wow, this is interesting. This guy and his team know what they're talking about. Maybe I could use them. You contact me and I don't ring you back. That's like mistake number one. Boom, you've lost your customer, because you have to be who you said you've been. You have to be authentic. I'm going to contact, if you email me back, I will contact you within 24 hours or within 4 hours, whatever it may be, or next day. If you don't do that, you've lost your integrity straight away. You're a liar. So that's the biggest mistake that you've made. Typos, typographical errors in your emails are a no-no. So double check. And using stock photos in an email is just a no-no. Now, we all use stock photos. We sometimes have to for our customers and everything. There's something that's not there. But if you're going to use imagery of any kind, make sure it's good. Make sure it's something that they're not going to have seen before with, on a lingerie advert or something. It's just something that you want to make sure that it's a genuine thing and that you can show that you have creativity.
Well, it looks like we're getting to the end of the show, time-wise. And at the end of each episode of Divi Nation, what I like to do is ask our interviewee to leave us with a parting thought, something that encapsulates their take on our primary topic in a very short answer. So today's topic has been how to build your sales funnel. And my final question for you, Andrew, is if someone wanted to start down this path today and they haven't done anything yet, they're a blank slate, what are the first and perhaps most important things that you'd want them to do right off the bat?
As soon as you open your business, your plan should have been done 6 months before. So you get your plan in front of you, and your plan will have included who your customers are, who they could be, and who you can make into a customer. So do your research into your target market. And as soon as you've done your research into your target market, learn about them, learn their language, and learn their pain points. And then you can start a campaign that says to them, I can help you because I know you. And that's it. Get to know your customer as well, if not better, than they know themselves.
Sounds like a great answer. Andrew, thank you for coming on Divi Nation.
No, you're welcome, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak with you, Nathan. You're a good guy, and this is going well for you. It's great.
I just want to give one more big thank you to Andrew for taking the time to come on the show. I think it's safe to say that the bulk of our guests so far have fallen into the designer or developer categories, and he's our first sales specialist. So it was really nice to hear from someone with a different voice and a new perspective. Two things we talked about a lot this episode were building sales funnels and filling them up. In lieu of a new edition of Divi Plugin Highlight, I thought I'd just remind you all that in addition to Divi, Elegant Themes has also created 2 plugins for just these purposes, and they are in a league of their own. The plugins are, of course, Bloom Email Opt-ins for building your mailing list, and Monarch, our social media sharing plugin designed to help you get the maximum amount of social engagement on your WordPress site. Up next, we've got our final installment of today's show, the results of our very first Divi Site Makeover Challenge. Check it out. I'd like to start by extending a big thank you to everyone who sent in their Divi Site Makeovers. From what I can tell, literally everyone who sent in a submission achieved a big improvement over the previous version of their website. But in 3 particular cases, I was really impressed. The first was sent in by Kathy Kroll Romana of Viva Design Studio. She redesigned the Windsor K-8 Academy's website using Divi. Here's how it looked before as a Joomla website. It has a very basic HTML feel to it, almost Web 1.0. And here's what Kathy was able to do with WordPress and Divi. So many big improvements here that it's almost hard to know where to start. All of the information from menus to body content is composed much more efficiently and attractively. The updated color palette is just right for the age group, and she's used some really fantastic but subtle color and pattern variations for her section backgrounds that add depth and style. Really great job, Kathy. The second Divi site makeover that stood out from the crowd was submitted by Ali Al-Hadithi. Here's how his website looked before the Divi makeover. Not awful, of course, but perhaps a bit too busy visually, a color palette that could use some help, and a page flow that doesn't quite work. Here's what he's able to do with Divi. A big design simplification, fewer colors, unified graphical look, and a page flow that works a whole lot better than the older version. Really great update, Ali. The third and final website that I want to showcase from this round of Divi site makeovers comes from Tim Striffler. Here's his website prior to his Divi makeover. It's a very simple portfolio site, almost like a placeholder. But here's what he was able to do with Divi. He created a homepage with a really impressive full screen header. And when you scroll down, it's just one beautifully designed section after the next, but limited to only the sections that need to be there. Great job, Tim. Your site's looking awesome. Okay, that's it for this edition of Divi Site Makeover. Congratulations to everyone who undertook the challenge and now have a better looking website than they did before. If you'd like to participate in future design challenges for a chance to be featured on the Divi Nation podcast and the Elegant Themes blog, keep tuning into Divi Nation and we'll have some new contests coming up. All right, that just about does it for this episode. One final announcement before signing off. I've been getting a lot of questions about when the new Divi Builder plugin will launch. Now, I'm not allowed to give you a date, but I can tell you it is very, very soon. In fact, as of the publication of this episode, if you are so inclined, it would not be difficult for you to stay awake, for you to not sleep between now and the time when the Divi Builder plugin launches. You might get a little tired, but you could do it. That's my hint. Next week, I sit down with Nathan Duval to talk about how you, a WordPress professional, can create a customer care-centered business.
I was talking to somebody on one of the forums the other day, and they were saying how they don't care if the website that they build for their clients breaks or not after the fact. And I'm like, I just don't understand that mentality, I guess, because it's just a bad attitude to take. I mean, if you're setting your clients up for failure from the time you deliver the site to them, you're doing something wrong, in my opinion.
That concludes our show for this week. See you next time.